Hello, I am Namisile Pamela Ngubane, and this is the Entity Dynamics podcast. Entity Dynamics is a culture development consultancy where we believe that culture creates behavior and behavior creates reality. Okay, so the title of this video is A Culture of Embracing the Truth. You are a superhero. Okay, so let me explain. You are a superhero. It's just a case of like, are you actually going to embrace that truth about yourself? Okay, so I encourage people to do that and to develop a culture of doing that. So, what do I mean by you're a superhero? I mean that you have abilities and the potential to be a force of nature in this world. Okay, but it's not like in the typical sense, like X-Men, Superman, Guardians of the Galaxy, Marvel comic heroes, DC comic heroes like that. Those are all metaphors for what's actually possible, if you embrace your truth and the truth of your potential as a human being. So we've had superheroes come to Earth and teach us about who we actually are. And one such superhero, someone I like to refer to quite often, is Jesus of Nazareth. Okay. So this is what I mean, that those comic book superheroes, the ones that you see in the movies, those are metaphorical superheroes. You know what I'm saying? And it's a metaphor for what is possible on a consciousness level. Okay. So it's all about consciousness. That's what they're referring to. It's not like you're going to physically fly, but it is that your consciousness could fly. You could use your imagination to transcend the reality. And what's your imagination? It's just your consciousness existing in the conscious realm, right? In the non-physical realm, which is where we come from and where we go when we leave these bodies in the process called death. Okay. So, and Christ said, he called us to be superheroes like he is. Okay. He said, these things and greater shall you do. Okay. So when Christ says these things and greater shall you do, we should take him at his word, because, if we claim to be Christians and we believe that he is the way, the truth, and the life, yeah, he wasn't lying when he said that. But what does it mean? Okay. He explained himself quite vividly in the Gospels. But unfortunately, what has happened in this world is that, just as typically happens with any superhero who comes here to this planet to teach humans how to elevate their consciousness so that they can actually be what they truly are, which is an eternal spiritual being having a human experience on this planet, a human experience, the purpose of which is to elevate the consciousness through overcoming certain obstacles as a initiation into remembrance of their spiritual nature. You know what I'm saying? So this is why, for example, you'll have the nursery rhyme, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Okay, that's true. And they're telling this to you as a little kid, because the human beings that know actually have a responsibility to teach other human beings the truth. Okay, life is but a dream. What does that mean? It means that you come from somewhere, you get born, okay, through your mother's womb into this physical form that you have, which is then given a name and is expected to function based on certain designations that it comes with, and which it inherits from the culture that it exists in, right? So you're an African woman from the Zulu nation, from a particular family with this name, right? But obviously, we all know that there's more to us than just this physicality, the social and cultural institutions that shape us, the ideas of our society when it comes to duty, obligation, success, merits, progress, right? Okay. So someone understood the truth, and then they say, yeah, it's a dream. You come here it's like a simulated reality, like a TV game. You know those TV games where like you take on an avatar, like in Jumanji, the movie? There's another metaphor. These metaphors are everywhere. They're everywhere to help us remember like the reality of our situation. Anyway, so this is what Christ said. He was like, I came down from heaven to earth to teach humans. I am the light of the world. Whoever believes in me will not live in darkness. Okay. Now, what they did with Christ and his message is that they removed the vast majority of the information about him and what he was coming here to do, which would allow you to actually do what he did and more if you had the full access to his story. And his story was captured by his disciples, right? But they've decided, this is back in 325 AD, 300 years after Christ was on the earth. They decided that no, only 4 of the Gospels from 4 of the disciples will be allowed in the canon. The other 80 or so records of Christ written by the disciples will not be allowed in the canon, which then deprives us of the context in which he was living, so that we can actually understand from him directly what it means to be like him and to do what he did and more. How to be a disciple of Christ. It's very difficult to be a disciple of someone if you don't know the truth about who he is. But we do have enough clues in the Gospels to, emulate him to a very big extent. And also, if you are able to connect to the Creator as he taught us to, and as he explained, that he will send the Holy Spirit to teach us, right? So if you can connect to the Holy Spirit, to God, right, to the Creator, the source, on whose mission, it could say, he came, right, so that we can connect to our Creator, you will get informational gaps filled through the wisdom. Because even in the book of James says, if you lack wisdom, ask God, the Father of lights, he will happily give it to you. If he knows that you're not going to abuse that wisdom, you see, because he says to the other disciples, he says, you ask and you ask amiss, because the reason why you're asking is to fulfill your vanity, to give a boost to your ego's desire to increase its potential for material accumulation. And when I say material accumulation, I'm not just talking about actual like money or physical stuff, but also things that will feed the false sense of ego. Okay. So when Christ said that, he explains, like if you look at the temple the Sermon on the Mount, for example, if you look at his conversation with the Samaritan woman, he said to his disciples, for example, love one another. He said when he washed his disciples' feet, if you seek to be the leader, you must be the servant. Okay. So he's giving us a lot of formulas throughout the Gospels. If you read the Gospels, he says many things that are like, if you do this, this is what will happen. Okay. And then he gives a very good illustration about how to become a superhero. He says, right, he talks about 4 different kinds of soil upon which seeds fall. The seeds being the words that he's teaching, right? There's the soil that's very rocky, and then the seeds take roots, but the roots are very shallow, and as soon as the sun comes, they wilt and die. There's the soil that's very hard, and when the seeds fall, the birds come and eat the seeds. Then there's the other soil, which it's fertile enough, but there's so many weeds in that soil that when the seeds fall and grow, they get choked, like the life gets choked out of them by the weeds. And then there's the good soil where the seeds fall, they go into the ground and they grow deep roots and they become permanently established. Okay, that is your consciousness. And when you live in truth and you are open to the truth and you introspection is the process by which you take out the rocks and the weeds and you soften the soil so that it's good for the truth to take root. Introspection is the key. So self-awareness, introspection. This is how you begin to become the superhero that you are. Bye.